Hello, my name is Ed Patterson, and to my friends, thank you so much for joining me today. This particular video is going to be very interesting because we're looking at the No Man Knows My History, the second seminal book for the Antis, published in 1944. And it changed the way that the Antis talked about the church, attacked Joseph Smith. So it had a lot of impact around the country. Now, I want to digress just a little bit. Just after that, so it was published in 1944. In 1945, Hugh Nibley wrote a comeback. So he read the book and he had some thoughts. And I want to just talk to you about a little bit of what he said. So this is the book it's in. This has 4 books of Nibley's all together in it. And he's a good writer. He's a smart man. He doesn't mince words, doesn't waste words. So it's worthy of reading if you have so desire. So I'm going to read just what he says, and this is in the table of contents. First topic. No, ma'am, that's not history. That's his title to his book. A brief review of Mrs. Brodie's reluctant vindication of a prophet she seeks to expose. So her first lines, if you start reading No Man Knows My History, it sounds pretty good. She's telling the history as we kind of know it, and she adds some things she's found, and it's very interesting. But once she gets past 1816, 1817, 1818, just as Joseph is saying, I've seen Moroni, things start to change. Everything now becomes her opinion. She tells how Joseph thinks over and over and over and over again. It is stunning for a learned person, for an educated person to say, I'm going to write a biography, and most of it seems to be that I can tell what Joseph 130 years ago thought. Hard to do. As opposed to that, the other book that I talked about, which is Rough Stone Rolling, is a biography. It's well documented. And Bushman is not stretching. He doesn't say, well, Joseph thought this and did this for these reasons because he knew this. Bushman doesn't know that. It doesn't claim to. Brodie does claim keen insight into the way Joseph thought, and that's why she could make her philosophy or her theory work, because she could fill in the gaps with he thought this and thought that. Interesting, strange, sad. Okay, so I am going to read 5 quotes from Mrs. Brodie on the Book of Mormon, how she kind of saw it. The last one is worthy of waiting. You will not believe what you hear. Okay, let's go to the first one. The Mormon Church has exaggerated the ignorance of its prophets, since the more meager his learning, the more divine must be his book. Now, that's a theme throughout this book. So she's covering Joseph. They always say he's ignorant, and that's what the word she used, exaggerates the ignorance of his prophet. And yet I've never, in all the time I've read, and I've read lots and lots, I've never seen the church say that. I've seen the early Antis say that, but not the church. But Joseph says, I had the rudiments of learning, math, English, writing, but that's about it. Lucy Mack Smith, in her biography, says he wasn't really inclined to study a lot, but he was a thinker, which the Antis say, yeah, he's thinking about writing the Book of Mormon, right? No, but that's really all we see from the old days. But nowhere the church is saying, oh yes, he doesn't know anything and this really is miraculous. That's the anti-connection, not the Mormons, in my opinion. Okay, let's go to the number 2. I'm sure I can find it on this page somewhere. Here we go. There's no doubt, however, that Joseph had developed a remarkable facility for dictation. Now, a lot of Antis focus on this. It's easier to dictate than it is to write. Joseph had the easy part. He just had to talk and someone else wrote it down. I don't know if you've ever tried that. If you're going for 500 pages in your original Book of Mormon, you better have one heck of a firm mind, because it's easy to talk and veer off and be wrong. Statistics are wrong. The dates are wrong. People are used wrong. That's what happens when you dictate at a fast rate. And he was dictating at a very fast rate. The speed was not far beyond his natural ability. So he must have been a pretty good talker, because they were doing 8 pages a day. To say that he had no learning, no, pardon me, well, he had no learning, a favorite Mormon thesis, again, designed to prove the authenticity of the book. His talent, it is true, was not exceptional. And that's something that antis do today. Joseph Smith was a pretty smart guy, but he wasn't a brilliant guy. He wasn't a genius, just a pretty smart guy. And I'm not sure why they even take that tack, but that's the tack that I see mostly when I read. No one's claiming he was a freak of nature. Just a pretty smart guy, pretty good at dictation, had a story in his mind, let it out. All's good. Doesn't make sense to me. His talent, is true, was not exceptional, but his book, his talent, it is true, was not exceptional, for his book lacked subtlety, wit, and style. So she's reading it like a novel. Well, not a very good novel. Well, it wasn't a novel. It was a spiritual book. Interesting. He was chiefly a tale teller and a preacher. So that was his strength. That's where his evolution brought him into tale telling, told it all the time, preaching, that was all good. That's how he was able to do this book. His characters were pale and humorless and stereotyped, however. So she didn't like the book because it wasn't a exciting fiction. It was just lackluster. So Mrs. Brodie had a problem, and she wasn't sure how to deal with it in the book. So I'm going to read the paragraph she wrote, see what you think. It is difficult to reconcile the explanation of the plates, now she's talking about the physical plates, with the fact that these 11 witnesses, and later Emma and William Smith, emphasize the weight, the size, and the metallic texture of the plates. So how does she handle that? Perhaps Joseph built some kind of makeshift deceptions. That's her answer, which is not an answer. Just sad. Okay, on to the fourth. Again, I use this one because it's so strange and interesting to me. His prose style, talking about Joseph Smith, was unfortunate. Joseph's sentences were loose-jointed, like an earthworm hacked into segments that crawl away alive and whole. I don't even know what that means, but it's right in her old book there. Strange. And then we go to the fifth. And the fifth is, again, a lot of this is just strange at the credibility. How can it be credible with the strange things she's saying? Listen to this one, see what you think. Of the 150 names in the Book of Mormon, now I've done a specific count, there's 189 of them, or 389, but she has 350, and that's fine. He took more than 100 directly from the Bible. Yes, when Isaiah came out, a lot of names are in there. Got it, no problem. Over 100 others were biblical names with slight changes in the spelling or addition to syllables. I don't know if that's true, but that's her view of it. But now get this. And since the Old Testament, in the Old Testament, no name began with an F, a Q, a V, a W, and a Y, he was careful not to include any of those words starting with those letters in his manuscript. Man, I see a big 2 letters here. BS. Sorry. It's like, come on. Joseph knew that those 5 letters weren't used as in the first of a name, and so he didn't do it that way, so make sure he was jiving with the Old Testament. That's this kind of stuff. Again, you read it first and go, wow, this is pretty amazing. A lot of stuff in here about Joseph looking pretty bad. Then you examine it. Once you examine, you just go, man, this is ridiculous. This isn't a biography. This is a strange journey through a strange land. So Miss Brodie, bless her, is gone. Her book is gone, rarely used anymore. On to the antis today. What do they say? I had one guy say this, it's amazing, this is on YouTube. He said, I can describe Mormons in less than a minute. I go, wow, that's an impressive statement. What is it? Well, they're a cult, they believe in the wrong Jesus, and they're going to hell. Awesome, buddy. Way to cover all the nuts there. So we will go much more into that in the next few videos, because the things I say today hold about the same water as No Man, No Way History and Mormonism Unveiled. It's stuff that's floating out there that you go, oh, my word, there's nothing to fear. The truth is on the side of the church over and over and over again, as we'll see in the next few videos. Thanks again. See you soon.